Okay, we are Siman Pei Dalet, starting Sif Ches. Okay, Sif Ches is the first halacha about checking vegetables if you're not sure if there's bugs in them. Okay, through halacha Zayin was when you knew there were bugs in something, what you have to do, and now halacha Ches starts with when you're not sure. So we do the first part of the halacha, which is Kol Mini Perish Shadarkim Hasliya Kashehem Chubarim. If you have fruits that are getting infested when they're attached to the ground, that means it says, I don't know that this specific fruit has any bugs in it, but it's a kind of fruit that typically gets infested when it's attached to the ground. Attached to the ground is worse, meaning because then those bugs are usher. You can't eat them until you check the fruit even on the inside. Maybe there's a worm or a bug inside it. If the fruit sat for 12 months after you pulled it off the tree, you could eat it without checking. Any bug that doesn't have bones to it, little bugs, don't last for 12 months. So if you let it sit for 12 months, you know that the bug that's in there is gone and you're allowed to eat it. Okay, so that part of it decomposes. So the end part of it, we're not going to talk about now. We're actually not even going to talk about it until halacha test. But I mentioned it because you'll see why I mentioned it over here. So this is the first part of the din says.
Can you explain just if something is attached to the ground and it is known in the past to have an infestation, so now you don't know if it does or it doesn't, and you're going to look. And then you said that you have to look in the inside. I never checked the strawberry on the inside.
So it means it's places where bugs can get on the inside. Talking about kind of fruits, you have to check where the bugs can be. You don't just check the
you said that. I thought maybe
it's a kind of fruit that potentially can be infested. We don't know, but it's a kind that in the past people have found this kind of fruit has bugs in it. So you have to check it.
But worms inside, you're talking.
In this case, that's where the problem is. Worms are inside. Okay. So I'm going to start just by talking about the fact that, to me, it's interesting that it's a machlokes whether there's even a Gemara that says you have to check vegetables. Okay? I'm not trying to say that anybody thinks you don't have to check vegetables. If there's enough of an infestation, you have to check them. But I'm going to explain to you that there's actually a machlokes with how to read a certain Gemara. The only Gemara that maybe says you have to check vegetables, not even everyone thinks that that's what the Gemara says. Okay, so to me that's interesting.
So what's the shaila in checking or not checking according to the Gemara? If there's a bug, you have to get rid of it.
We're not talking about that there is a bug. You pick up a head of lettuce. Do you know that you don't know there's a bug in here? But you know in the past that lettuce often enough has bugs in it.
But if I don't know how I want to ask the question. So there's a stira between, not a stira, but a difference between something that historically has had at times bugs and something that historically hasn't had bugs?
Yes. I mean, if I know that there was a bug in this lettuce, I saw the bug in there, I have to do one thing. But if I just have a head, I go into the store and I pick up a head of lettuce, I don't know if there are bugs in there, there's not. But I know, like in the U.S., historically, that lettuce, often enough, has bugs in it. So my approach to that is very different. I don't know that there's something in that's no good. It's possible. So I have to check it. And that's what the next bunch of halachos is, that I do have to check it. But my requirement to check it is not as serious as if I knew there was a bug in there. I don't know there is. I'm just, from experience, have a feeling that there's a possibility that there's something in there. Okay? And yeah, so the Gemara says like this.
But that doesn't change the fact that when you say the Gemara doesn't say explicitly, or at least according to some, that you need to check, is that going on, you need to check, or is that going on that it's mutter or also to eat the bug if it's there?
No. Whether you need to check. Of course you're not allowed to eat the bug. No, that term says you're not allowed to eat a bug. My question is, you don't know that there's a bug there. Just maybe there is, maybe there isn't. So we all know, of course, you have to check it. What do you have to do? If you can't eat it. So to me it's interesting that it might not even be say that straight out in the Gemara. You would think that should be spoken out. That you do it. Here's a couple of halachas. You have to check things. So, okay, so let's see what the Gemara says. The Gemara says like this. The Gemara says, the way our reading of the Gemara is, it says, Hani Tamri Dekada, have to be checked. Until they're 12 months old, you can't eat them. Okay? What are Tamri Dekada? Okay, so that's a machlokes. Rashi says that the word is Dekada, and the word Dekada means that dates that come in a barrel, okay, or in a jug, okay? So those have, and Rashi says, they are known to have bugs inside of them, and therefore you have to check them. You can't eat them for 12 months unless you make sure there's no bugs in them. So Taisus is very surprised with that. He says he's not even convinced. He's back and forth as whether dates actually come in jugs. It's an unusual case. And if we're talking about something that has bugs in it, why did the Gemara get into such a very specific case of dates that have bugs in it? Why didn't you say anything that has bugs in it? If you know there's bugs in it, why did the Gemara have to get such a very specific case like that? So Taisus says that the word is not the kada, it's the karim, okay? And that word means that they were infested. Okay? Taisus proves that word, the karim, means that they were infested. Okay, so Taisus learns that the Gemara Taisus agrees to Rashi that the Gemara is talking about a case with this a thing in front of you that you know is infested. They have a question as to the wording of how you should say it, but they both say the Gemara is talking about something that you know is infested. That means to say is that both of them hold that this Gemara doesn't say a word about what we want. We want to see in this Gemara that you have to check things that you don't know if there's infested. Both Rashi and Taisus learn that the Gemara is specifically talking about a case that you know there was bugs in. Okay, the Ran has like Rashi, that it's in a jug. And he says, if it was infested, he says, if you knew it was infested, why wouldn't the Gemara just say it like Taisus? Why didn't the Gemara just say it? If you knew that there are bugs inside, why would you say that? So, he says is that it's not, the point is that the dates that come in a barrel are exactly the kind of case that we want, which is something that sometimes has bugs and sometimes it doesn't have bugs. And I don't know whether my sample does or doesn't have bugs. So the Gemara is saying is, in that kind of a case, it's a kind of thing that sometimes it has bugs and sometimes it doesn't, you're mechuyev to check it. So according to the Ran, the Gemara is actually speaking out that you're mechuyev to check things if you don't know if they have bugs or not. Okay, and the Ran brings the Rambam, who he said the Rambam learns like he does also, because the Rambam says like this. The Rambam says, if you have fruits that sometimes have bugs in them, you have to check them. And if fruits sit for 12 months after they came off the ground, then you can eat them also. Okay, which is exactly what our Shulchan said. It said first you have to check them, and then it said if it sits for 12 months. He said, why did the Rambam put those two halachos right next to each other? Why did he put them? So the fancy word now, juxtaposition of those halachos tells us that he read those as the two lines in the Gemara. The Gemara was saying is if it's possible that it has a bug in it, and you can't eat it unless it sits for 12 months, then he puts those 12 halachos next to each other, which is exactly the way our Shulchan does it, that he passes like that one. Okay, now there's another machlokes. I mentioned this last time. There's another machlokes that the Gemara says two different things. If you know that there are bugs, or if you know that the bugs will come when they're on the ground, then you're mechuyev to take them off. What happens if you're not sure about both of those? I'm sorry, if you don't know about one of them, you also have to check it. What happens if you don't know about both of them? You don't know if there are bugs in them, and you don't know if the bugs come when it's attached to the ground. Maybe they came when they're off the ground. So the Ran says in that case you have to be machmer. Even if you have both shakers, you have to be machmer. The other Rishonim, Rashi Taisus for sure say, and the other Rishonim also all seem to say you only have to be machmer for one of those things at a time. And we mentioned last time that Shulchan Aruch passes like the other Rishonim, not like the Ran. So you only mechuyev to check for if there's one of the problems, not if there's both. Okay, put that on the side for a second.
Hello. Can I call you back? Thank you.
Okay, so anyhow, if I could just back to where we were, which is, I'm not trying to say that Rashi or Taisus doesn't agree with what we said in here Shulchan Aruch. Everybody agrees that if you have a question that something may have a bug in it, you have to check it. I'm just pointing out that according to Rashi and Taisus, there isn't, to my knowledge, maybe it's someplace else, to my knowledge, there isn't a Gemara that says straight out, you have to check things that are possibly infested. According to other Rishonim, which is actually the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins, it's actually a Gemara that says that. But according to some people, there may not actually be a Gemara, which to me that's surprising. Okay, so we're going to go to another topic. Since this is the first halacha talking about checking for vegetables, before we do the...
Can you just explain something?
Go ahead.
If you put something into a pail, a jar, a keg, casket, if there's a possibility of bugs, why would you put it in there? Why wouldn't you check them? If it's a possibility, not a bad day, a possibility, why would anybody put it into the barrel without even checking? I mean, it just doesn't register.
Because the dates came from Tunisia, and the guys in Tunisia put them into barrels, and they sent it to you. And now you got a barrel full of dates. Why are you asking a question? That's what happened. You got it. I don't know why you did it. That's just what happened.
No, I thought you were talking about something.
You did it yourself?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Oh, Kaka, that's the story happened. I can't.
Okay, now I understand.
You're stuck with it. That's just, maybe it would have been smarter to check it before. Okay, so I want to talk about checking vegetables on Shabbos. Okay, which is not, it's not in these halachos at all. In the halachos, our halachos siman is just about checking vegetables, but this is the first time we're talking about checking vegetables, so I'm going to talk about that.
Nothing else to talk about. So.
No, actually, the end of halacha is actually quite busy, but I figured we might as well do it at some point. Okay, it comes up, and things like this. There's three potential issues with checking vegetables on Shabbos. Okay, the first one is barrier. Okay, barrier means you're not allowed, if you have good and bad mixed together, you're not allowed to separate them from each other on Shabbos. Okay, so the Taz says in Hilchos Shabbos that if you have a bug in your food, bug in the drink, it's barrier to take the bug out of the drink. And the only way you're allowed to take it out is if you take some of the liquid with it. You can't just take the bug out by itself, you have to take some of the liquid also. The Behetiv over there, in Shulchan Aruch, brings a Marit someone who says that you can take the bug out by itself because the bug that's floating on top of the water is really not part of the drink. It's not mixed into the drink. You could take it. You can't. The Marit someone says you're allowed to take it out. It's not considered mixed together. And you're allowed to take it out. So you're not separating means you're taking the good from the bad from the good, or the good from the bad. Here, they're not mixing together with each other. Okay, they're just separate things from each other. You're not take it out. The Mishabur is machmir, like the Taz to say that you're not allowed to do. Okay, so according to that, you would think that a person who finds a bug on their lettuce would have the same thing. We would say like the Taz, that's considered mixed together, and you're not allowed to take it off. Okay, you would think according to the Taz that should be burned also. Okay, but the thing is like this: the Chazon Ish says, now I wasn't around when this happened, but they say that when this piece of Chazon Ish was printed, it made a very big tumult out in the world. Okay, I wasn't even born when the Chazon Ish was alive, but they say it was a big tumult when this thing was printed. Okay, the Chazon Ish says, Chazon Ish says that the Taz and the Maritzon really agree with each other. Okay, everybody thinks that the Taz and the Maritzon disagree with each other. But he says, no, they don't agree with each other. Really, they both agree that an insect inside of water are not considered mixed together.
On top of it.
An insect floating around in your cup,
not submerged.
I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but the insect that's floating around in your water is not considered. It's like really the Maritzon is correct that they're not considered to be mixed together. There is no the psoilus and the oichel, the bad and the good, are not mixed together. Okay, but the reason why there's barrier is because the insect, where it's sitting, if you looked at the insect by itself, between its legs, like within the folds of the insect, there's little bits of water. That water is considered to be mixed together with the bug. The rest of the soup is not mixed together. It's obvious that the bug and the water are separated from each other. But right around the legs itself, if you look, between the wings, all the little spots in there, there's little droplets of water. That water is mixed together with the bug. So therefore, he says like this: the reason why the Taz says to scoop out some water is not because I'm trying to remember what he said. It's not because if you take out some oichel, then you can take out the psoilus also. He says there's no such heter. Most people understand the Taz is that you're taking some oichel also. He says there's no heter to take oichel also. He says, but the reason why the Taz says it is because the drops of water that are around the bug, those drops of water and the bug, that's the taruvus. If you scoop out water around it, you've removed the entire taruvus. Okay, the issue of barrier is when two things are mixed together, you can't take one out of the other. But if you take the entire mixture, lift up the whole mixture, then that's not barrier. Barrier is to separate one from the other. You didn't separate them, they're still mixed together. So if you scoop out the bug with the water around it, you've gotten out the bug and the water, it's gotten out the entire taruvus out of the... You took out the whole thing, so you didn't separate good from bad. The good and the bad are still mixed together where they were, and that's why you're allowed to move it out. Okay? It's not because you're taking some oichel with it, but because maybe this is very subtle. It's not the oichels with it, it's that if you take them together, then you've taken out the entire mixture, and then you're not separating one from the other.
That's in general for
yes. He says it explains that Taz. He says people think the Taz means to say is that there's a special heter if you take some oichel with it. Uh-huh. He said there's no such heter. He says there's no such thing. He says the only thing is that if you didn't separate the good from the bad, you didn't do anything wrong. So you didn't separate the good from the bad because good and bad you've got the whole good and bad together. So what did you do? You separated liquid from liquid. That's no barrier. It's the same thing. Okay? So he says you're allowed to do. Okay, so Shmir Shabbos Kochasik.
It's supposed to be lettuce since it's not, you do the other side.
Right, I'm getting to it. Okay, so Shmir Shabbos, that's what the Chazon says about the Taz and Meritzon. So, the Shmir Shabbos Kochasik says like this. So if you have a bug floating around in your water, in your soup, okay, you should scoop it out. If you have a whole bunch of bugs in your soup, he says then the Chazon would not be Meko. Okay? If you have a whole bunch of bugs, now the whole soup is a taruvus. Okay? Not just now. It's not. If it's just one bug, we say there's no taruvus because the bug is very distinct from the soup. So the only taruvus is the bug with the little liquid right around it. So then by scooping it out, you're okay. If there's 50 bugs in your soup, then I don't know if you want to eat it anyhow. But if there's 50 bugs in your soup, then then the whole soup is a taruvus at that point, and then you can't scoop them out one at a time. Okay, then it's hopeless. You can't do it again. He says he thinks the Chazon would make it to it. Really, the Chazon basically says it himself. Well, right nearby, he says the same things. Now, what happens if you have a bug I'm still saying for Shmir Shabbos. If you have a bug that's relatively big sitting on your lettuce, then you don't have to take any lettuce with it. Because there's no taruvas. What the Chazon said was that there's only taruvas if there's something mixed right together with the bug. There's nothing mixed together. There's nothing mixed together with the bug because the bug is sitting on top of your lettuce. Okay, so he says then you're allowed to take it off. Okay, we're going to talk about the muktzeh part of it in a second, but you're allowed to take it off by itself. You don't have to take lettuce with it because there's no taruvus over there. He says, what happens, but if you have a very small bug, that's sitting on top of lettuce, then he says you have to take some of the lettuce off. Because then, even though they are technically, the lettuce and the bug are separated from each other, since they're so hard to separate from each other, they are considered taruvus. His words are, the Maritzon says, "Lo shayach brer el masha tzarich lefashresh ulevarer v'liver." Okay, something that you have to look for very carefully is considered to be mixed together. So even though technically they're separate pieces, since you would have to look really hard to separate them from one another. Therefore, so the very small bugs are considered to be a taruvus with the lettuce, and then you'd have to take some of the pieces of lettuce also off with it also. Okay. Now, that's if you're taking it off by hand. You take the piece of lettuce and you're trying to pull the bug off or scoop it out of your soup. Okay. Ramesh has a tshuva about what happens if you want to wash your lettuce off. Instead of doing it by hand, you want to wash it off. Ramesh says that's not butter. If you wash it off and the bugs come off, that's not butter for two reasons. First of all is butter is only when you do something derech butter, and this is derech rechitza. Okay, whatever that's supposed to mean. And the second is that most people, Ramesh says if you're rinsing off dirt, he says most people would eat lettuce with a little dirt on it anyhow. If there's a general rule by butter, it's only butter if you're separating it in a way that would makes it from inedible to edible. Here, anybody would eat it anyhow, so you're allowed to wash them off. Okay. So, Ramosha says you need both of these things to make it mutter. Okay. And Ramosha is talking about if you need both of them, then it wouldn't work when you want to get a bug because people would not eat it with the bug on. But Shlomo Zalman says that it's mutter even if just one. Even if you do kol derech chitz is good enough. The fact that you're washing it off, and that's not the way of butter. Derech butter means is that you separate the things from one another so that you could then eat it at a later time, as opposed to derech ruchita, which is along the lines of what people say. I think that our derech achila is mutter, then you're allowed to do it. So here, derech ruchita, that's mutter. So Moshe says that it's okay, and Shmir Shabbos says it's okay. Ravaya says that Rabbi Yasha thought it was not okay. So wherever that puts you. Okay. So from the butter side of it, we had I'm going to summarize for a second on the butter. From the butter side, we had if the bug is in a liquid, a person's supposed to scoop out some of the liquid together with the bug. If the bug is on a piece of lettuce, it's not on liquid, it's on something dry. So the Shmir Shabbos said based on the Chazon Ish that if it's bigger, you could just take it off by itself, and if it's very small, that it's so hard, you have to look for it to find it. Then you have to take off with a piece of lettuce with it also. And Rabbi Moshe and Shlomo Zalman said that if it was on a piece, you're going to rinse it, then that's not part of it to rinse it off. Okay. Let's go to muktzeh. The rule is that animals are considered muktzeh. Again, Hilchos Shabbos, animals are considered muktzeh. So you would think that the simple understanding would be, again, that insects on your vegetables would be muktzeh also. Okay, you think that if you have an insect on your vegetable, well, just like my cat is usher, my cat is muktzeh, so too, okay, so just like a cat is muktzeh, so too you'd say that the insects on my vegetables are muktzeh also. But Chazon Ish again, not in the same place. A different Chazon Ish says, no, he doesn't think that's a chashash for that. And the reason is like this. The Chazon Ish says that a person is sometimes allowed to move a little bit of muktzeh in order to eat their food. Chazal permit that. Here's his words. He says, "Oichel hamukav al yidei muktzeh," meaning food that you can't eat because there's something muktzeh preventing you from eating it. Mutar lahafresh hamuktzeh mei ha'oichel, v'loi choshev tiltu muktzeh, elo tikun oichel, v'loi gazru chacham hazeh mishum muktzeh. Okay, so the Chazon Ish says.
The shells.
Okay, I don't remember the rayas that the Chazon Ish has. He has rayas. Maybe that is a raya. I'm not sure if that's right because it's right now it's oichel. That's the way you get the food. Maybe that's, I'm not sure. I don't remember what his rayas were. But he has rayas that you're allowed to move a little bit of muktzeh if that's preventing you from eating your food. Okay, and also the Chazon Ish says there's a different thing. There's a rule that a graf sharei, when something is muktzeh means it has no use to you, then you're not allowed to move it. But if something is disgusting to you, then there's a special heter of graf sharei. You're allowed to move things that are disgusting to get it out of the way. So he says here, it's like that also. The graf sharei is preventing you from getting your thing you want to. So it has that heter to also. Mishabur says something like that also in Shinches. Okay. So this whole thing that you're allowed to move muktzeh, a little muktzeh to get your food out, is quite a chiddush. So Shmir Shabbos says it's better to avoid it if you could. Okay, it's better to avoid the muktzeh, which would mean is the way to avoid it is to take a piece of lettuce to it. So we talked about before here that whether it's boirer, whether as the boirer shaboy you have to take a piece of lettuce, as the muktzeh shaboy, Shmir Shabbos says it's better to take a piece of lettuce with it that we don't have to.
Well, if you're doing the rinsing, then that's till the clock.
Right, rinsing's for sure okay. But the rinsing that's correct. There's a rinsing solves that problem. If you want to, but you check, you hold up a piece of lettuce in your hand, and you have the bug there. We have one more problem to deal with in 1 second. You're holding the bug in the lettuce in your hand. There's the bug over there. So from a boirer, you might be able to take the bug off. But from the muktzeh of it, Shmir Shabbos is saying it's better to take off a piece of lettuce out of it. Okay, what did you say? Now, the last thing is whether you're killing the insect. Okay, and that is also to kill the insect. So that's the third problem with checking vegetables on Shabbos is potentially that you might kill the vegetables. From that side, you're better off ripping the bug off rather than rinsing him off. Okay, unless he's gone already. If he's dead, then that's okay. But if he's still alive, then the advantage is to take the bug off or take the piece of lettuce with it. Okay? So from the boirer shaboy, there may have been situations where you're allowed to actually take the bug off by itself without the lettuce. Sometimes yes and sometimes not. From the muktzeh shaboy, Rosh Hashanah said it's better to take off a piece of lettuce with it also, rather than take the bug itself also. If you rinse it, you may be better off from the boirer because Moshe and Rosh Hashanah said you were allowed to rinse it off. For sure better from the muktzeh side of it, but from the killing the insect side of it, then you're worse off. Obviously, because the water is going to kill it.